Be a baller. Welcome to Be a Baller podcast, where we discuss how to build a lifelong legacy. I'm your host, Coach Tim Brown. Today we'll be talking about building a legacy and serving fatherless young men with our special guest, Rocky All of Team Focus.
Before we get started, let's hear a word from our sponsor. The team at the Financial Solutions Network is proud to partner with Tim Brown and bring you this episode of Be a Baller. Our mission is to share generously of our time, talent, and financial resources to help our clients develop financial plans and wealth management strategies that allow them to live the lives they imagine, while connecting them with experiences and people that enhance their quality of life. FCA is one of those organizations by helping young men and women through the development of their personal faith. The Financial Solutions Network is an independently owned and managed wealth advisory firm based in Worthington, Ohio. We are a multi-generational professional team of advisors with a combined 83 years of experience teaching and managing financial strategies for individuals, families, businesses, and institutions. We would be honored to help you plan your financial journey. Contact us at 614-505-3025 or visit our website at tfsn.net.
Today on the show, we're excited to have Coach Alt. Today, Rocky is going to share his heart for Team Focus, which is a summer camp for fatherless young men. Rocky, welcome to Be a Baller podcast.
Tim, I appreciate that, and I think what you're doing here is absolutely fabulous, and I'm just honored to be here and be part of your podcast, because you've had a lot better people than me up here in this seat.
No, I was excited to have you on. As part of our focus is about building a legacy.
It is.
Truly, you have built are building that legacy. You know, Rocky, I know you lost your father at a young age. Can you talk about your family growing up and the impact of men in your life?
I grew up in a town, Crestline, Ohio. About 5,000 people at that time. It was a city. It's less than that now. But it was an athletic-minded community. Wow. I mean, if you didn't play athletics, you were kind of on the sidelines, so to speak. My family consisted of my mom and my dad, and I had two other siblings. They were twins, a brother and a sister. I could think about Lou Holtz when I think about, he talked about, he was given a golden spoon, if you remember that, in his mouth. And we didn't have much in those days, Tim. I mean, and I didn't know what much was, if you knew what I mean. I didn't know. I just knew play ball, go to school. And my dad repaired washers and dryers. He used to own an appliance store, but he lost the store, and then he went into maintenance with those appliances. I used to get up when I was a young kid, Saturday mornings, and go help him all day long. And it was great because I got to spend time with him. I remember as I got a little bit older, he says, "I'm going to let you drive on this country road." Okay. And I says, "Dad, here's the one thing he said to me, and it sounds real simple, but it's really smart." He says, "You have plenty of room on your side of the road." And you know what? That just made me feel so good. It made me feel so good, like I can do this. Yeah. All right. So I had the dad, and then my mom and dad separated for a while. And if you've ever been through a separation of parents, it's not easy. It's heartbreaking. You don't see your dad very much. And I know with our Team Focus young men, that's some of the problems they're going to face. But through my dad, I just learned so many things. I learned, hey, you get up on time, you go do a job. I'm asking you to do this job, and you do it to the best of your ability. I used to hold the flashlight, and if the flashlight wasn't right, he'd say, "Hey, get the flashlight down there where it belongs." And so my dad died when I was 15 years old. I was going into my sophomore year, And he was sick one day at home, and I come home. It's during the summers. We hadn't started football yet because it started in August. And he says, I need for you to take me to the doctor. I says, Dad, you all right? He says, well, you just need to take me to the doctor. So I took him down to the doctor. The doctor made me sit out in the waiting room in those days. He took Dad back, and Dr. Sawyer come out and he says, do you have your license? And I says, no, I don't. I have a permit. And he goes, okay, you're going to take your dad to the hospital. He's having a heart attack. And, I didn't know what to say. I got in the car and I says, Dad, I hope you're all right. He goes, I'll be all right. So I took him to the hospital. I went back home, and before he told me at the hospital, bring my pajamas, bring my toothbrush, bring my razor, and bring it back to me. I had no sooner gotten home, Tim, than I received a call from the hospital, and it says, your dad is in bad shape. We've called your mom. My mom worked over in the Shelby Hospital, 10 miles away. So she said, you can either come here or you can wait for your mom to get home. And I said, I'm going to wait for my mom. My brother and sister were there. They were younger than me. So if I was 15, they were 14. And so we went over, and by the time we got to the hospital, my dad had passed away, and it was tragic. The next few days I was kind of in a cloud, but that's a situation, my home situation that I grew up in. Now, if you want me to go into the city and the town, the men that influenced me the most, besides my dad at that age, I played Little League baseball. I played Teener League baseball. I went and played junior high football. I played high school football, and I played high school baseball. All the men, the coaches in my life, were a huge influence on me. Huge. And then I played summer ball too. And all the people that coached me were such huge ones. Bill Frana was my head coach. Bob Miller was an assistant. He was the PE teacher, and I always had him. He was just great to me. All right. I had summer baseball, and there was a guy by the name of Jerry Harbaugh. Jerry Harbaugh was the brother of Jack Harbaugh, who was the father of Jim and John. Wow. All right. They all came from our hometown. Wow. There was another gentleman in that town by the name of Gates Brown. Gates Brown played Major League Baseball for the Detroit Tigers. So the influence there was great. And I know when Jerry coached me, he was so hard. It seemed like you couldn't do anything right, but you always wanted to do the right thing to please him. Yes. And so that was my background there in high school. Now, as I went to college, I went to Wittenberg University, and as I went to college, Bill Edwards and Dave Maurer were there. Bill was the head football coach, and Dave was an assistant. Dave coached the quarterbacks, though. Dave was a hard-nosed guy, too. I remember one time when I was a freshman, I went back to set up. There was no shotgun at that time. Right. I had to drop back and set up, and he got right over the ball, and he comes screaming at me saying, you better get back faster. I says, okay, I get your message. So, but they were influence on me. One other gentleman whose name was Merle Hudson was a longtime coach at Crestline. Was a great guy. Oh, a great guy. He played at Heidelberg, and we used to, in we called it minor league ball, go down to Kelly Park, which is a small park there, and it was like he walked down the street, and the Pied Piper, everybody was following him to go to the ball field, right. And he would umpire from behind the pitcher. I don't know if anybody remembers those days. From behind the pitcher. And if you did something wrong, you could hear him, hey, Alt, what are you doing? You know, he had that deep voice.
Right.
And, but he was a great guy too.
Yeah. So it sounds like you had a lot of men who came alongside and helped you in your success.
There was, Tim.
Successful you were in high school, college, and the Hall of Fame in Wittenberg. Can you talk to the audience about some of those life lessons, those life lessons you learned from sports?
Here's, I was thinking about this the other day, Tim. One of them I learned was, I remember in baseball, we always had situation drills. Runners at first and second. There's one out. I'm playing third base. What do I do if the ball's hit to me? So you have to predetermine. You have to know in advance what you're going to do. If you don't, you're going to be lost. And it's going to cost you runs or an error or whatever. And so I learned, think ahead.
Think ahead.
All right, think ahead. And that would be like, hey, I walk down the street. I'm thinking ahead. What can happen here? What could happen to me? I'm in school. What if she asks me the question? Can I have the answer? I got to think ahead and have it. All right. So that's what I got. And the other thing I got out of there was discipline. You got to be disciplined. And structure. Those two to me are pretty good. You know, the structure was, hey, you had to be on time to practice. Here's what we do. And here's what you have to do. All right. And there was no lateness. If your butt was late, you were going to run or you were going to do something to make up for it. Or you know what else? You weren't going to play the next time.
Right.
I'm going to tell this one story about Jerry Harbaugh's pitching. And I had a 3-0 count on the batter. He called timeout and he come out to the mound. He says, you either strike him out or you're coming out. I says, hey, coach, the count's 3-0. He said, I don't care. I struck him out.
Oh, yeah.
We come off the field and I was up that inning. I hit a ground ball, I think, to the shortstop, and they threw me out at first. And I went back to Doug and he said, sit down, you're done. You didn't run hard enough. So that told me that I wasn't pleasing him. It wasn't like, you know, I just wasn't pleasing him. And I guess I should have strived to do better. All right. So striving to do better in sports. And the other thing is, when you lose, there's always another game coming. There's always another game coming, whether it be this year or next year. All right. The camaraderie of the team. I really love that too. I mean, all my friends played baseball or football or something else like that. And I just loved being with them. And so that was big on the lesson I learned.
That's good. That's good. I know you're a strong man of faith. Can you talk to us about your faith journey?
I got some little stories on that, Tim, I can tell you. I was born and raised a Roman Catholic. Okay. My mom and dad, I went to church every Sunday. I went to a Catholic school, a parochial school. We had nuns. All right. Now, all the stories you heard about nuns, there's probably some fabricated ones, but some of them are pretty true.
You're true.
There were times where I remember one time where I threw snowballs, and we weren't allowed to throw snowballs. And I thought to myself, what difference does that make? What difference does that make? But that was a rule they laid down. And so Sister Kathleen, lean and mean. She was about 6 foot. And she called me, and this other guy's name was Gigi Tridico. And the other guy's name was Carl Widman. So she took us down to the cloakroom. If you're in the cloakroom, you know you're not doing something right. And at that point in time, she lined us up and she says, I was the last one. Gigi's in front of me. Carl was first. And she sat down in a chair like this and had a ruler in her hand. And she says, how many snowballs do you throw, Carl? Carl goes, 1. Just put out your hand. Wham. Other hand. Wham. I'm going, oh man, Carl walks out there. I think we were in the 3rd grade. Carl walks out there crying. Gigi's right in front of me, and Timmy puts a glove on his hand.
Okay.
And I'm going, oh no. And she comes up there and she says, Gigi, how many snowballs did you throw? And he goes, put out his hand, got his glove, and he says, sister, 1. And she saw the glove. She got up out of her chair and smacked that hand. His glove went flying over my head. And I says, I don't know what I'm going to say now when I get up there, but I said 1 and got whacked 2. So, but you know what? Even though they did that to us, I love the nuns. Mm-hmm. I mean, I respected them. And my faith journey, I remember one time, one of the nuns pulling me up to the back room and saying, do you see that cross up there? Mm-hmm. We had a crucifix in every room. And I says, yes. She goes, that's the number 1 thing in your life. And the number 2 is that flag over there. Mm-hmm. And I never forgot that. 1 is your faith. 2 is your country. And I was an altar boy. They call them, I think, servers now. Mm-hmm. Because I asked one of the Team Focus kids, I said, you an altar boy? He goes, I'm a server. I said, okay, probably the same thing then. But my faith has led me. My wife is such a woman of faith. She has influenced my life more than anybody. I was reading, we read daily lessons, and she's got a book called The Chosen. I don't know if you've ever seen those daily lessons in The Chosen. And the one I read the other day was so moving. I sat there and we asked questions of each other afterwards. And I said, Susan, this is good. This is really good. And she says, yeah. But I walk as much as I can. I pray. Every meal we pray. Mm-hmm. And back in the home, it was always, bless us, O Lord, and thy gifts which we are about to receive through our bounty. Mm-hmm. And that was the old Catholic thing. If you ever watch Blue Bloods, you see that. Okay? But we don't pray that way anymore. We pray and we speak what's in our heart. Mm-hmm. So my journey has been through, and you know what? I went to get married too. Susan was not Catholic. I went to the priest in Crestline. I asked him, I says, hey, I want to get married. My wife was married before and married in the Catholic Church. The priest says, you cannot get married to her because she has to have her marriage annulled. And I says, Father, I'm not going to go through that. That could take a long time. And so I went to a Lutheran minister. First time I was out of the Catholic Church, walked in that church, thought I was in a foreign country, And anyway, so we got married. We have 2 kids. They're both very much believers. They influence me, and hopefully I influence them in a positive way. And what we try to do with Team Focus is we pray every morning, we have Bible study every morning, and we do worship service at night.
Speaking of Team Focus, can you share with us the vision of the founder, Mike Godfrey, former coach, and what Team Focus does?
Mike's father, and let me tell you this too, Mike's from the same hometown I am. Okay. He's from Crestline too. And he is cousins to the Harbaughs. Okay. So it's all intertwined there. But when Mike started Team Focus, he was always missing his dad. Mm-hmm. And he says, after he got through coaching, he worked for ESPN, and he told his wife, he says, I want to take some kids out, some fatherless kids out to eat tonight. And she says, okay. And they did it. And GMAC at that time was functional, and they was a sponsor of the GMC Bowl in Mobile, which Mike got started. Mm-hmm. And Mike says, I had some money left over this one year, so I want to have a camp for fatherless young guys. And they had it at South Alabama University. And he had 50 guys there. And he had the camp. And GMAC liked it so much that they told him, we're going to give you X amount of dollars for every camp you have. Mm. And we want these in certain locations where our regional headquarters are. So we did that. So they gave us roughly $1 million to start off things and get it going.
How did we get one in Ohio and Ashland? I know you lead the Ashland one.
Actually, the first one was in Mobile, I told you. The second one was in Ashland.
Really?
Because Mike and his brother Joe, and Joe's his brother, was a basketball coach and AD, and then Mark Godfrey coached at Alabama, North Carolina State. But anyway, Mike and Joe went to Ashland because Joe was a former head basketball coach there. And so they went where they knew people to have people support them. And so Ashland was the second one. And that's why Ashland was on there. And next to Mobile, we're the second longest running camp. It's 22 years.
Wow. As you think about those 22 years, talk about some of the impact that you've seen. I know you're focused on fatherless boys. And take me through what happens when you see them on Sunday when they come in and then when they leave.
We have a registration process, and they get a room. Then we go and we have a meeting about here's the program, here's what we're going to do. And then we have sports. We play softball. We play a lot of basketball.
Right.
Okay. We have meals, and the meals are fantastic. And we have one of them pray at every meal. We don't eat or go up to the serving line until we've prayed. And then we have a speaker, activity. We're never in the classroom any longer than 1 hour. All right. We have a speaker, activity, some other function. But at night we have praise and worship. All right. And our main song is He Knows My Name. I don't know but we sing that at every camp. Now we might sing other praise and worship songs, but He Knows My Name is the ending song of every camp night. All right. We get up in the morning, next day, they go to Bible study, they have breakfast, and then we start off, whether it be basketball, a lecture, softball, a lecture, eat. And so the day goes like that. The last day we go fishing because we figure some of these guys have never fished before, and they get a free pull. They get a pull. I said pull. Hope I said that right. Pull.
Yeah,
pull, right? Okay.
The fish would be mad.
Yeah, I would be. And then we got to be very careful because, hey, those guys swinging those hooks, man, can be dangerous. All right. So we do that. Another activity, we bowl every year. We take an educational trip on a bus. We've been to Shawshank Museum, the penitentiary in Mansfield. We've been to a hog farm up in Bucyrus. All right. We've been to a military base in Ashland. Couple times we've been to that, but we try to figure out something educational that they get to learn from that. And then we give prizes out, best camper, all that stuff, Tim.
Now, I'm looking at your tie there, Team Focus. Talk to me about that tie.
All right.
It looks good on you.
This tie, GMAC bought hundreds of these ties for us. We have this tie that has our Team Focus logo on it. All right. And one of the things we teach our guys, and I should have covered this, was we teach them manners. We teach them how to tie a tie. In today's society, speaking, ties are kind of going by the wayside, but young men, the ages they are, don't know how to do that. And so we teach them. We buy them a shirt like this, Tim, and a tie. We teach them table manners. We teach them phone manners. We teach them computer etiquette. We teach them how to treat a lady. If you go on a date, here's what you do. If a lady's at your table, you scoot her chair out. She sits down, you scoot it in. If she gets up, you stand up. And if you're to the right, you pull the chair out. So we teach them all those. We teach them, forks and knives, where they go, the glass. And so this tie has become for us a symbol of what we do. We have various things on the internet that Aaron Days, our director down in Mobile, he went to London one time and he took his tie along and he placed it on the London Bridge and took some pictures of it and everything else like that. But the tie is there because we give it to them. We also give them 4 different colored T-shirts, red, blue, gray, and gold, and they wear them on each different day. All right? And we do that because that way we can keep track of them, really. I mean, when you got 60 kids running around or something like, hey, there he is.
Right.
So, but that was a tie. And thank you for bringing that up because I was going to do that and kind of slipped my mind.
Yeah. This podcast is about legacy. As you think about that word, you've done a lot of things. What does that word legacy mean to you?
Legacy means a lasting image, something taught that you're proud of, that somebody else can learn by. And I think of a couple of our guys, if I can bring them up. Tevin McGuire. Tevin went through our camp for 8 years. He's from Ashland, Ohio. He is now an Ashland City policeman. So proud of him. He worked his way through. He worked at a 7-Eleven at night. And I told him, I says, you're working the worst shifts here. 11 at night to 7 in the morning. But he comes and he speaks and he does things for us. Another guy would be Dominic Monk, who lives here in Columbus now. And Timmy went to Gallion High School. Okay, it's near Crestline. He went to Gallion. He went through our camp for 7 years, I think, and then he went to Ohio University. He became a business management major. He is now a wealth manager, works for a wealth management firm here in Columbus called Baird. Here's what he did for us. He went in there and he says, Rocky, I'm going to see if I can pay back a little bit of what you guys gave to me. And so he secured some funds from them for us. So we have now a Team Focus Alumni Association. We just met. We meet once a month on a Zoom deal. And all these guys are getting together in order to help us function better. And their job is everything. And I don't know if you're going to ask me this question. If you are, I may get ahead of you. But we have a young man by the name of Corey Bishop, who's an associate pastor up in a church outside of Mansfield. Now, as I was talking on the phone, this come up. What can we do, to help you? Corey Bishop's in a church. I told Corey, there's got to be one young man there who doesn't have a father. There's got to be. Now, I may be wrong. There may not be. But if you need to get him involved with us. There's got to be one person in your church that wants to help volunteer for us. You got to help us do that. Now, there's an application for a volunteer. There's an application for a Team Focus member, but that's the main thing. We have our banquet, Tim, and I know you've been there before. We have our banquet as a source of spreading the word, a source of showing people what we do, a source of raising funds for us and introducing our young men. And that's why the banquet's there.
Yes. Yeah, I've been there and I've seen those young men you're talking about being around, just paying forward, so to speak. As we turn the corner and wrap up, could you issue a challenge to men about the importance of how a father's role in a son's life is irreplaceable?
There's no doubt it's irreplaceable. I look at youth who go wayward, I want to say, because they have no guidance, because there's not a dad who disciplines them. And I think that's so, and provides structure.
Right.
I think that's so important. I remember as a kid, I shouldn't say kid, as a young man, the other young guys in the neighborhood would get what we called what the heck was that word? They had to stay home. Mm. They weren't allowed out. They were being punished for they did something wrong or they didn't listen. Mm. Well, I never had that. Nobody, my dad was gone at this point in time. My mom never said she was you got to be home at a certain time. And if you're not, you're getting grounded was the word. Yeah. You're getting grounded. Mm-hmm. And I never said it to me. So when I'd go over and see Mike Gerster, I says, Mike, can you come out? No, I'm grounded for the weekend. Oh, I walk home and I think, man, I wish I was grounded. I wish somebody did that to me. Not that I would probably have liked it, but because it showed me structure. I am a very structured guy. I believe in discipline. So that's what a dad does. And there's another thing, the love. Yes. The love is this. When my dad put me behind the wheel, Tim, I told you about, mm-hmm. and says, you got plenty of room on your side of the road. He trusted me, mm-hmm. and he loved me to do that. Mm-hmm. And when we think of love, sometimes we think of that mushy stuff. Mm-hmm. It's not always the mushy stuff. It's the stuff that says, this you can do, or this you have to do. And they're loving you because they're showing you the way. Love shows the way, along with discipline helps on that way. But to me, love is just showing you, caring about you. Hey, where'd you go? I call my son still aloud. Hey, he's a salesman. He's on the road. And I say, hey, Brian, how you doing? He goes, Dad, will you quit bothering me? But you know what? I says, hey, that's because I love you. Yes. Oh, yeah. So that's what it is, right. Tim, to me.
Yeah, we've heard all these great things about Team Focus. Can you share with the audience how they can support the work of Team Focus?
You can support the work by calling me, mm-hmm. or emailing me, mm-hmm. or texting me. Yeah. And by the way, here's what the Team Focus young men tell me. I used to write a letter about camp and about the things we were doing. Yeah. Never read it. Mail's out, they said. Mm-hmm. Phone's out, they said. Emails are out, they said. Yeah. Text. The only way you get in touch with a lot of people is through text. And so last year, Tim, I didn't write any letters. I didn't email. Right. I went on my phone. I produced a text and I sent it to all of them. And it says delivered, right? So I know they got it.
Yeah, and they responded to you.
Yeah.
So Mike, I want to thank you for being a part of today's broadcast. I want to thank you for your work with Team Focus. For many decades in the lives of young men who needed a father figure. I know as you look back over, you see those guys, and you're just so proud of them, and just the impact that Team Focus had in their life. But the most important thing, I think, their willingness to come back.
Yes.
The willingness to come back and share and be a part of it to help that next generation.
That's right.
And I believe truly that's the legacy that you have left. So thank you for joining us during this enlightening and informative discussion on building a legacy of service to young men. I hope this episode was beneficial to you, the audience. As always, thank you for listening to Be a Baller. Thanks, Rocky.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate it.
If you enjoy our show, please share this podcast with your family and friends. Be a Baller podcast is available on all major podcast stations. Be sure to come back next week as we continue to discuss on how to build a lifelong legacy. Until then, don't forget to be a baller. This podcast was created by Coach Tim Brown. It was edited by Teron Howell and produced and recorded by the video production class of Worthington Christian High School.